Welcome to another daily update here in the Creepy Crawler's Garage. We're going to be taking a break from the TandemCTelevision project today and working on the Ripsaw Project. We also open up the Mailbag, which I think is going to lead to a new project in the future. So sit tight through this opener. When we come back, we'll take a look at it. Don't go anywhere. So it's been a while since we've taken a look at the Ripsaw Project, so I thought I'd take a minute and bring everybody back up to speed. Basically what we have here is a Kyosho chassis with a Dodge Charger body that I got probably a year and a half ago or so in a pretty beat up state. So what I did is I just freshened up the chassis, and then we started giving the body a bit of a paint job. And we gave it a kind of a worn out blue paint job with some flames. If you want to see exactly how that was done, go back and look. I don't know exactly which episodes go back and look through the daily updates, and you can see exactly how we did this weathered paint job. And if you remember, this is going to be kind of the main character amongst the outsiders in the series we're going to be filming coming up in December. So in December, we're filming a series that's an apocalyptic series set in the future, kind of in a cyberpunk world, and we have kind of three factions, I guess you could say. You have our shop faction, you have the outsiders, which are the people that live outside the world. Then, of course, you have the people living in the city, and then we also have a bit of a zombie apocalypse going on. So we have a bit of a mashing of worlds coming on all together, and this is going to be the main character amongst those outsiders. So the people living outside of society, I guess you could say. And this is going to be their main car, so kind of like the main character, because the series is going to be vehicle driven. So the vehicles are going to be really playing the main roles of the characters. We are going to have figures that are going to be characters in the series, but the vehicles themselves, I would really consider them the main characters of the series, and this is going to be the main character amongst the outsiders. So with that all reminded and everybody brought back up to speed, let's look at what we've done here today. So actually, we had already started adding some of this body armor, these little small pieces, but I wanted to go ahead and add some body armor to the front windshield, which is exactly what I did. So I just basically cut out a piece of styrene, the size of the front windshield. I cut out some slots that they can see through. I added some little 3D printed bolts along, make it look like it was kind of bolted. I also did some simulated welding around it. So they bolted it, welded it, make sure this is nice and strong, a nice strong structure. I also added some wire mesh in behind, and then I gave it all pretty heavy weathering. Basically, this is all going to end up very heavily weathered. If you remember right, we want it to be very weathered because this is an outsider's vehicle, so it's outside all the time in an apocalyptic world where during the days there's just sun beating down on it and frying it, and it's taking nuclear winds are coming through. Whatever, these apocalyptic issues are coming through, and this really beating down on these vehicles. So I'm going to really weather them. So there's going to be heavy weathering everywhere, including like on the front windshield, like you see here. Where it's basically I just used some black washes, some rub and buff, and then I use some homemade rust. Basically, it's just vinegar and steel wool is literally all it is. Just put some vinegar in a bottle with some steel wool, let it sit outside, and it'll literally create a bit of a rust paint for you. And that's what I use for the rust sections. I also went in ahead and added the snorkel. I had this snorkel off of a 6x6 off of a Unimog. And I thought it looked kind of cool adding it here to the Ripsaw Project. I think it gives a pretty good look to have that snorkel coming out of the side of the fender. I thought that looked pretty good. And then I started working on what we've all been talking about, which is why it has the name Ripsaw. So basically what we've been talking about doing is a mohawk of saw blades and spikes and things of that sort. So I went ahead and started adding the two big saw blades. If you remember right, I went and Googled and found out what the largest blades were that were used in lumber yards, which were what I could find was 52-inch blades. So I basically sized that down to 5.2 inches or 10th scale. And then what I did is I used a contour gauge to get the contour of the front windshield, and I used that to mark out the blade itself so that I could cut it with a cutoff tool. And then that gave me the shape I needed to just glue on here, and then again, weather up. And again, this isn't done yet, but I'm gonna have it looking just like heavy rust. Like this is an old blade that came out of a lumber yard from way back when. They sourced it. The outsiders found it. They sourced it. They're using it as armor basically for their vehicle. And basically I did the same thing front and back. This is one blade and I just cut it in half and then used that contour gauge to give me the contours I needed to cut these in shape. Then again, I just used some simulated welding. By the way, to do that, I just use heavy CA glue. In fact, I use Loctite 60-second CA glue, which is very thick. So you can basically literally just run a bead with it like you would when you're welding. And here, in fact, on this back one, you can see where I haven't weathered the bead yet. You can see kind of better what it looks like just as raw CA glue. But it really does give a really nice welding effect to make it look like something's been welded to the roof or to whatever, to metal. But anyways, and you can see here, I'm still in an earlier process of weathering the back blade than the front blade. You can see how this one's looking a little more rusty than this one. And it's going to get even rustier. So underneath this, there's some rust simulation paint that I'm going to bring out, and we'll probably see that tomorrow in tomorrow's update. But I just wanted to give you a look at the two blades and how they're turning out. That's basically where we're at with the Ripsaw project. Let me know what you think. There's going to be a lot more. So I'm still trying to figure out. So I've got the saw blades. I think I'm going to put maybe another smaller saw blade up in the very front here. But in between, I want to do big spikes or something. I'm still trying to figure out what the best option for that is. Right now, I'm still kind of going with just big spikes, big metal spikes that are nice and weathered up in the middle. But if I could, I had some examples given. I don't know if any of them work exactly how I want so far as some kind of industrial grade tool or something that would work as spikes in between the saw blades. Because what I really want it to look like is they went out and sourced some big industrial grade tools to use for this mohawk they're putting down the center of their car. And I just haven't quite come up with the perfect thing yet. If you have any ideas, just keep those ideas coming down below. We're also going to be adding a lot of melee to the sides and to the front. So that's all yet to come. So just be patient with that. I'm still working on it. I'm going to try to keep all the flames themselves very visible so you can see the flame paint job. But other than that, we're going to start armoring this up. I still got to do the side windows, which I think I'm basically going to do like the front window, maybe with just bigger cutouts. But I think I'm basically going to do it like that. Like they just took some sheet metal and bolted it up there, welded it up there, threw some mesh in there. But there's not going to be an interior in this vehicle, so I don't want it to be too visible on the inside. There might be a little bit of lighting just to make a glow. And speaking of lighting also, I'm thinking about adding spots maybe here or on top, and I want them to be red, like red spots, almost like eyeballs that are red. So when this comes driving at you through some mist and smoke, you got these red lights that are shining through, just to give it a little more ominous look and a little more of an evil look, I guess you could say. But I'm trying to think if I want to put them on the hood here, shooting forward, or maybe on the roof. I'm thinking on the hood would be even cooler, really making them look like headlights, or looking like eyeballs, above kind of the mouth of the grill when you look at it straight. When you look at it straight on this way, you had those two lights there. It looked like eyeballs, and this is the mouth of the grill, and it's just coming at you, and you got the teeth down here. So that's what I'm kind of thinking about doing. I think it might look a little weird if we put them up front. I think it would look best back here. Let me know what you think down below. But that's kind of the idea I'm having for lighting on this vehicle. Like, I'm not going to do actual headlights in the grill. In fact, I haven't exactly decided what I'm going to do with this grill. I'm probably going to blank it out with maybe some diamond plate or something like that. Like they've put and drill some holes in it so that the radiator can breathe. But something that they've put on there for protection and armor. It's probably what I'll do with the grill. But I'm not going to be doing the lights in the grill. I think I'm going to do them up top here. I think that'll look really cool. But let me know what you think. And of course, keep the ideas coming as far as what do you want to do with the melee weapons. I've had some great ideas like chainsaws and other things that I'm really looking into to see how we can make them work. But if you have any other ideas, of course, let me know down below. And like I said in the opener, we also went to the post office today, and we had a box there waiting for us that was way bigger than I was expecting. So I gotta say, just a really big heartfelt thank you to Fern Solo for he sent in a couple items that I think are going to be really cool for the CCG 3000 AD series, the series we're shooting in December. These two items are really gonna help out, and I just can't say thanks enough. So let's go ahead and take a look at what he sent in real quick. So the first thing is he sent one of the Tamiya figures, one of the Tamiya drivers for the Willis Coupe, I guess it comes from. I love this figure. These are so cool. And I think I've got a great idea for this guy, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. But he also sent in a Jeep Cherokee body, an entire cheap, hard body Jeep Cherokee body. He told me he was sending me a Jeep Cherokee body. I thought it was going to be like a stock axial Lexan body or something to that effect. Like I was blown away when I opened up the box, and it's a hard body, and it has the windows and all the the lights and the rear light. It has all. I was blown away. I just can't say thank you enough. And I think I've got good ideas for both of these, and I thought I'd get you guys' input. So in fact, let's talk about this Cherokee first. I've personally got two ideas that we can do with this in the series. The first one being, as we had previously talked about building a car for a character who's just a scrapper. And we had talked about like building all the armor for the car just out of like road signs and out of like chain link fence and barbed wire. So I thought about turning this Cherokee into that car, the scrapper car, whatever that character's name ends up being. But basically he's just a scrapper who sells scrap. And so his whole car is armored out in things you would find in the world. Like I say, like chain link fence and like road signs that he's welded to the side of the car, stuff like that. So that was the first idea I had. The other idea I had is when I looked at this, we got to keep in mind, this is a cyberpunk futuristic world. When I looked at this, I almost saw a taxi cab. So think about it this way. When you think about the future, but it's a low income future, they always use cars from 50 years, 80 years prior for their taxis. First thing that comes to mind is like Cuba, right? You go over to Cuba and it's all the cars are from the 50s. So that was my thought when I saw this. It has, if I could just visualize this yellow, and it has a taxi cab look, and we could do all kinds of cool futuristic taxi elements to it, like lit up lights on top that say taxi or available or vacant or whatever, those kind of things. I even thought about what if you put maybe, I don't know, like tracks, or even had it hover somehow. Like, yeah, I don't know. I just had all kinds of ideas for a taxi cab that could be driving around as we drive around in the city, because there's obviously going to be other vehicles as we go through the cities, and we're driving and we're filming the TRXZ and other vehicles going through the city. So that was an idea I had too. So that's kind of the two ideas I had for this. One, either the scrapper, or two, a taxi vehicle for the city. Let me know what you think down in the comment section, if either one of those work for you, or if you have even a better idea for the Jeep Grand Cherokee. Now, with the Willie figure, so here's the thought I was having with this. Obviously, this isn't going to really work as an actual character in the series, but what it would work as, and what I think would be pretty cool, is we had talked about doing, obviously we're going to be building an entire city block with businesses, and we had talked about doing a bar. So my thought is the name of the bar is something like the Crankshaft Bar and Grill, something to that effect, right? That's just kind of off the top of my head, but it's a automotive themed, right? So think of a sign for this bar, and I think up top what we would have is like the cyberpunk kind of characters. They almost look like Japanese characters or Chinese characters, and then underneath in English in small it would say Crankshaft Bar and Grill, and then beside it, on the sign, we would have this guy. Of course, he'd have his arms on and everything, but we'd have him mounted as part of the sign that's painted up, and then we could have a light shining on him, and like he's the character for that bar. You know how you have, I don't know what you call it, but like logos or characters for different products. Like he's the character for that bar, but he's mounted up on the sign, on this neon sign, and he's part of that sign. That was kind of the thought I had for it, especially because he's kind of flat on back, so he would mount perfectly on a sign like that. And then we could have his arms. And I thought about even putting a steering wheel in his hand and a gear shift in his other hand. And it's like the Crankshaft Bar and Grill. I don't know. Let me know what you think. I could, in fact, I could put up something, I could put together something graphically we could look at. I could do something in Photoshop with this that we could look at tomorrow or something, if that you think that's a good idea. Something I could put together, we could look at a little better graphically. But let me know if that's something that you think I should move forward with, if that's a good idea, or if you have even a better idea for what we could do with this guy. Let me know down below. Thanks for joining me again here in the garage for another daily update. And I rambled on a little long on this one, so I'm going to keep the outro pretty short. I just want to again say a big thank you to Fern Solo. Hit the subscription button, hit that like button, leave me those comments down below, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.